Um, so so
Sorry.
I got started in the business back when the business was even before the business. So Andy and I got started with another agency. Andy brought me into the business, gave me a call and said, "Hey, Bo, I think we got something we can make money with." I said, "Dude, I'm down. What is it?" He goes, "Life insurance." I go, "Awesome, man. Can people make money in that thing?" He goes, "You have no idea." And that's all it took. I said, "I'm in." And I said, "Can I do it part-time?" And he said, "Absolutely." So I always tell people that I'm the affirmative action hire. I'm the Filipino affirmative action. I represent all the Asians out there. And so I got in, man. I needed to get out of my job. I needed to spend more time with my family. And Andy gave me the opportunity to do that, for which I'm forever grateful. So we got in and we started this business, really the alliance together. And it's been going crazy ever since. I mean, he's been my mentor, my friend, and oh gosh, we've been on the last couple of days. We probably spent a couple hours, like an hour each conversation. Just he keeps mentoring me, and I keep listening to him, right? And so that's how I got into business, and I built. We do about 800,000, 900,000 a month in issue paid premium, and almost 200 unique writing agents. And the Leventoviches are in my group. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. Megan Wood's in my organization.
That's right.
Man, I tell you what, I'm so humbled. I mean, I tell you what, it's really crazy building a group like this, because you go to a function and people are introducing themselves to you. And, I always say, "Who's your upline? Who's your upline?" And they tell me like what group they're in. I have no idea that they're in my group. Then all of a sudden they introduce themselves and I find out who their upline is. Like, "Oh, you're in my group." And immediately I'm thinking, how much glow bonus am I making on the? No, I'm not really, but it's just weird like that. And so when you build a business big enough and you find enough really good people that want to build their own business, all of a sudden your business just like takes off like a rocket, and you just have no clue what's going on in parts of your organization. All you know is that your commission checks get bigger and bigger, your glow bonus check gets bigger and bigger, and there but for the grace of God go I. So I'm forever grateful for Andy to get me in the business and to create the business that I'm in. So we're still building it, man. So that's kind of my pedigree. I am into teaching. Big into teaching. And if you look on YouTube under ABN Financial, you'll see I have hundreds of videos on there teaching everything I'm going to teach you tonight. And just kind of give you an idea of what we're going to cover tonight. People, there was years we went without having an ATM flip chart, right? And it's really was something that was developed because we needed something to teach agents so we can walk them through. And we needed something that was, a little bit more unified, so that if I were doing a hotspot in Miami or California, people were using the same general presentation. So we could all really kind of teach from that framework, right? So instead of teaching like, this one method of sales or this other method of sales, we had this ATM flip chart that would walk a new person through. And then, you and I know what happens when someone starts to get really good. They start developing really their own kind of system, their own way of doing it. It's kind of like that's kind of the dangerous thing sometimes when you go on a ride along with someone, is that they might do it different, but that's the way that they kind of developed into being a top closing agent. When you take a new agent with you, sometimes you have to kind of go back to basics, right? And that was the whole idea behind having the ATM presentation, was to give everybody a framework from which to start. The problem with that, okay, is that people would put their ATM together, they put their About Me page together, and then they just kind of read the PowerPoint, okay? And it's not designed to be just read to the client. People think that if I just read this, I'm going to close. And really, you got to understand the intent behind the slides, because I was involved heavily in putting the ATM together. And selfishly, I wanted to put it together with the sales submarine in mind. I'm going to talk about the sales submarine. So that's why they really kind of match up, although it's kind of been revised over the years, but still generally the slides follow the submarine, the ATM submarine. And so I'm going to teach that. So the whole idea here is not to subvert anything that Marcus Richardson taught, did an awesome job at NatCon, or Stephen Davies. I think Stephen Davies was awesome, man. I was taking notes and he gave me his PowerPoint and I'm ripping stuff off there. But, I think those are really great teaching. So my perspective is to give you something, especially if you're brand new, something that you can use in a very simple manner to walk through the ATM, understanding why you're saying what you're saying, why those slides are there. Because I think if you understand the purpose behind the slides, then you're going to increase your closing rate. And I've said this since the beginning, that if you're brand new and you follow this 7-step process of closing a sale, taking care of a client, you're going to have a minimum 55% closing rate. And then when you start grooving into your own style and to your own way of really taking care of clients, you should get to about a 75% close rate, okay? If you get higher than 75%, then I start to question your placement of persistency, okay? Because you start getting to 90, 100%, there's something wrong, and you're gonna probably be getting hit with chargebacks. So I think our lead program is about 75% you should probably take care of when you sit down with them. That's, I've been doing this a long time. Those are the numbers that I've come up with. Like Megan Wood said, she got this because we've been teaching it forever. You book 3, you sit 2, you close 1. You book 3, you sit 2, you close 1. I stand by those numbers. And if you use this 7-step approach, not only are you going to have a really good profitable closing ratio, but the other thing you're going to get is you're going to get great placement of persistency. Okay. And I think that's something that sometimes we fail to teach, are how to do it properly where your placement of persistency is still good. A lot of people are just teaching, okay, close the sale, close the sale, close the sale. But then a new agent gets hit with chargebacks, right? And all of a sudden they're out of the business because they, all their commissions are gone. They can't pay their lead bill because of chargebacks. I think that if you follow this 7-step process that we call the submarine, your placement persistency is going to be profitable as well, okay? So that's really the setup behind this whole thing. So if you're a veteran salesperson and what you're doing is working, God bless you, man. Don't mess with what's working, okay? I think maybe the value to you that are veteran salespeople that are building a business is to understand, and I was there. I was like top 4 or 5 salesperson in the alliance back in the day. So I knew my stuff when it came to sales. Problem with the veteran salespeople hiring other agents is that you expect them to be as good as you are now, right? And you look at your experience and it took you, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years to get where you are. And then I get it. You get frustrated because your new agents can't close the way you do, right? And then you take them on a ride along and you've got like your 20-step process, right? That you don't even have to think about because it's ingrained in you. What we call that is unconscious competence. And when you're trying to have an agent watch you do your 20-step process and you're mad at them because they can't close like you, that's where the frustration comes in. You got to give people a chance to grow. You can't expect them to be as good as you. What I always remind the veterans out there is to remember what it was like when you got started, right? Keep it simple for your new people. Even if you take them on a ride along, man, go back to basics because you're going to be good enough to close the client, but be careful from doing all the fancy stuff that you do. So you got to be really careful when you're teaching a new agent. So that's why this sales submarine approach will give you some very basic framework to go from. And then all the rest of the homework is on you. So I'm going to introduce some concepts, not designed to teach you and drill down in depth in those concepts, but it's for you to go out and I'll guide you with materials and stuff to go get better understanding on the things I'm going to drill down to. All right, gang. So, oh, Jim Leo's on the call, Mr. Teacher. So now I'm nervous. Jimmy quit his teaching job, right, to go full time with this. So anyway, all right. So let's share with you. If I have opportunity to share the screen, that'd be great. Looks like I do. All right,
There you
cool.
You should be able to now.
Yeah, awesome. All right, cool. So hopefully this is not going to be a boring PowerPoint.
Somehow I got onto drawing. Oh wait, there you go.
All right, cool.
Nothing
right,
you do is
so-
boring, Alex.
I'm sorry.
Nothing you do is boring.
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully not. So we call this the sales submarine. Why do we call it the sales submarine? Let's go into it and show you why. So let's start out with the concept that when you walk into the home, there are two sales systems that you're going to have to decide which way you want to go. It's like a fork in the road. When you enter the house, you either follow the client sales system, right? And what is the client sales system? So what the client's going to do is they're going to just be the nicest people to you. They're going to, have you sit down on the couch. Hey, would you like some water or some coffee? Can I offer you anything? And they're working you. They are working you, man. So what is the client's objective in their sales system is to make you feel comfortable. They're going to do bond and rapport with you. You're going to think, oh, this is a lay down. See, that's what they're trying to make you think, that this is going to be a lay down sale, right? And so you're going to ask questions like, so what was important about taking care of this need for you? Well, Alex, I love my family and I want to take care of them with life insurance because God forbid I would ever have to go do a GoFundMe page to have them pay for my final expenses, or, God forbid they're going to have to move out of the house because they can't pay the mortgage. And your mind is going, oh, I got this one. It's everything you can do to stop drooling on yourself, right? And you're like going, oh, this is going to be easy. And so they say, so Alex, how much is this going to cost us? And you're thinking, oh, okay, let's go, let's quote. And so you start quoting, you say, okay, I've got 3 options for you. And you give them 3 options. Hey, forget this ATM. This is a lay down, right? And so you give them all your quotes and you tell them how great this product is. And you got your laptop open already, or your tablet, you're ready to do this application. And then, wow, okay. And then they drop the bomb, right? The bomb is, Alex, you are one of the most informative salespeople that has ever come into my home. You are like, I can't believe how good you are. We love what you showed us. We love the rates. We think that those are reasonable. But you know what? We like to pray about it before we make any big decision. And so what we're going to do is we're going to think about it. And trust me, your time here is not going to be wasted, because you're going to be the first person we call should we decide that we want to move forward with this. And you're sitting there going, what just happened? What happened? And you're going, I thought this was going to be a laydown. And then they told you they're going to think about it. And you're just like dumbfounded. And you're going, but, Alex, you know what? Tell you what, can I get like a bunch of your business cards? Because when you go to church Sunday, I want to pass them out to all my family and friends. And you're going to get called by all our church members, right? And here's another water for you on your way out. And they're walking you to the door and you're going, what the heck just happened, right? Well, what happened was you followed the client sales system, which is to steal your rates, right? To get you out of the house, steal your rates, so they can shop you to all the other agents out there, man. And it's not a good feeling. And if you have that happen enough to you, you're going to decide, dang, this is not good. Okay. And so you're going to have to decide whether or not you want to go down the client sales system or your own sales system, your system. Okay. And this is the system we're talking about. We're talking about the ATM Submarine. Okay. Now, why are we calling it a submarine? Well, it's a 7-step process for you to take a client through so that it's going to at least get you sitting down with the right clients, right? And that you're going to take care of the clients that can be taken care of. So what do I mean by that? Well, the way that we look at our sales system is that it's different. We turn it upside down. In other words, does this client, the question in your mind as you're going through this is, does this client deserve to be my client? Does this person deserve to be my client? Do they care enough about their families, right? Do they love their families enough to take care of them? See, some agents think if they like me, they're going to buy. So you do everything you can to kiss their butt so they like you. You know what? They're going to like you enough to tell you they want to think about it. You know what I'm saying? There's got to be you got to keep an arm's length distance from your client so that you get the job done and you don't decide that they're your best friend until they take care of your family, right? The mentality is, do they deserve to be my client? Do they love their family enough? Because I only am friends with people that love their families. Well, Alex, that's kind of harsh. Aren't you wanting to be friends with everyone? I want to care about everyone as long as I don't care more about their families than they do. Does that make sense? It's a total different mindset is because here's what the submarine will do. It'll allow you to leave early because you know right away there's nothing there that you can help them with. And you can get out of their house as fast as you can so you can go help the next family, or you can get on the phone and book your next appointment. It's designed to minimize your time with pretenders, with tire kickers, and it's designed to invest your time in the right client that's going to take care of their families, right? So we've got 7 steps to filter out the pretenders, okay? And we call it a submarine, and this is why we call it a submarine. In a submarine, you step through each compartment, and each compartment is designed, like in a submarine, to close crank down the hatch so that you don't have to go back and take care of that. So you step through each compartment, and once you close it, and it allows you to move on to the next one, right? So you can't move forward until you feel comfortable that that's done. If it's not done and you don't feel comfortable, you're out of there. So at every point along the way, you could leave that house without a sale because you should, right? Because you should. So you're totally in control to determine this. And that's why we call it the compartments. So for example, if you blew up one compartment in a submarine, it's closed off and airtight so it doesn't flood the rest of the ship, and the ship would go down and sink. So that's why we call it the submarine system. So it starts with bond and rapport, creating trust with the client. It moves on to the upfront contract. Now I'll explain these, okay? And then it goes into the pain funding process. Once the pain is established, then you make sure that they know that you're going to fit it in their budget, and they're not going to have to worry about budget. And then we're going to tell them what the decision process is after that. And then we go to fulfillment, which is putting together the quotes, asking them the questions, getting it done, right? And then after that, we do the post-sale to lock the sale down. So if you go through each compartment, closing it along the way, then you know that you're walking down the right road. But any point in time where it feels funny, it's not right, then it gives you permission to leave that house and move on to your next client, okay? So let's go a little bit more in depth about that. So this is called 5 elements of what I call a righteous sale. In other words, a sale that's locked down, a sale that's going to be good, the placement persistency is strong, that you really served a client that will become your friend and friend for life, honestly, okay? So it's important to understand what you're trying to get out of each of the compartments, which will translate to the ATM, right? So the first 2 sections, bond and rapport and the upfront contract, what that does is it establishes trust with the client, right? People say, people buy from people they like. You know what? That's true. But what's also true is people buy from people they trust. And sometimes you like people, but you don't trust them, right? There's some of that element. People like that. You like them, but you don't kind of trust what they're about, okay? Here, what we're trying to establish is trust, where the client feels good about you, you feel good about the client because when they trust you, they're going to believe you. So that's the first element of a righteous sale, that they trust you. The second compartment is pain finding their emotional need, why they need you to protect them, why they need this product, okay, why they need to take care of this problem that they have that's emotional. So this is where we establish that they need it, right? So you got trust. The second element is that they really need it. The third element, going through the budget and decision process, is they want it. And all these are subtle differences, but differences that make all the difference in the world with you taking care of a client. So after the budget and decision process, you know they want it. By this time, literally, you've closed a sale. Now it comes down to, can they afford it, right? And that's when you show them the rates. That's when you lock down the rate. That's when you double close the rate, make sure that you've locked that premium rate down, that they can afford it, right? Once they can afford it and you've written it up, then comes, will they keep it? And that's where you lock it down in the post-sale process. So if you ever look back, any time that you did not close a sale, typically it's because one of these 5 things: either they didn't trust you enough, the bond rapport wasn't strong enough, or you didn't do the pain finding process strong enough where it became an emotional need for them to want to take care of it. Maybe they really didn't want it, after taking those obstacles out of their way, they didn't want to move forward. And then maybe they couldn't afford it. Maybe they sincerely couldn't afford it. And you couldn't give them something that, that they're going to be able to keep, and then testing that final close, you're making sure that you squash out the buyer's remorse. Okay. So those are the 5 elements of a righteous sale. And trust me, this is a good way to evaluate. Remember, Stephen Davies talked about it. What did I do good in this appointment? And what did I do bad in this appointment? So every appointment, you should go through this mental process of, did they trust me? Did they really need it? Did they really want it? Could they afford it? Are they going to keep it? And there's this self-evaluation that this framework will really help you go through every time you get out of the house. I did this all the time. What's really cool about doing it right after you leave the house, when you're on your way to your next appointment, is that it locks down that training, that teaching, that experience to the next client and all the subsequent clients in your career. It's a really powerful practice. So I'd really endorse you doing that. So let's talk about the 7 steps. You can look at this as really a cycle as well. And you take clients through the cycle, you should come out with a client that you've taken care of. And it's going to lead to income, and income that's going to stay in your pocket and not going back to the insurance company as a chargeback. I can't emphasize that enough. When people ask me, Alex, I'm having a problem with placing a persistency, you know what I do? I go back to step 1 with them. Tell me about how well you did the bond and rapport. Tell me how well did you set expectations with the upfront contract. Did you find pain? See, because placing a persistency all comes back to, did you lock them down? Did they deserve to be your client? A lot of these chargebacks, a lot of them will come because they really shouldn't have been your client in the first place. All right. So let's go into detail. Again, I'm going to really teach more surface level. I'm going to lead you to resources where you can drill down. This will give you a good overview about what I'm talking about. So bonding and rapport. So when do you do this in the ATM? These slides, the first 4 slides, are really where you continue the bond and rapport. And actually, bond and rapport happens throughout the entire sale, right? But you can't move on to any of the other steps until you feel good that the juju is good with the client, right? That you've felt like they trust you. And it's a feeling. It's a feeling. And once you do this enough, you're going to calibrate how you feel about how the client is bonding and rapport with you. Okay. So all this starts at the beginning. When you walk in the house, you shake their hand firmly, you take your shoes off, you play with their pets if they have pets, all those things. And you're going to hear, I've got an hour-long video on bond and rapport. If you go to my YouTube channel, ABN Financial, I've got some really good bond and rapport videos that go right into bond and rapport. Okay, but this is where you started, and through the first 4 slides, this is how you, really establish that. And it's based on the premise that people do business with people that they like and trust, but they also do business with people that are like them. But Alex, I'm Hispanic and they're about as white can be. Or hey, Alex, I'm black and they're white. Hey, Alex, I'm Protestant and they're Muslim. It doesn't matter. You can always build bridges with anyone because you could be like anyone, right? And I think that's the power of the bond report process and what we do. I ascribe to a sales technique called neuro-linguistic programming. You're going to hear this all through my thing on NLP. NLP is a powerful thing, but I don't want you to go crazy with it. I'm just pull the things. I'm going to teach you to pull some of the stuff out that will make sense that you can get implementing right away without having to be a master license in NLP counseling, right? So this is based on the premise people do business with people that they like and trust and that are more like them than not, okay? So this is where we come into the idea of mirror and matching, and a lot of great stuff happened this weekend at NatCon. If you were at NatCon, Stephen Davies and Mark has talked about mirror and matching and creating this bond rapport. One thing that's really interesting when you look at the way people communicate, especially women, the way women communicate, they turn towards each other, right? And they're just like this video right here, they're turned towards each other. The interesting thing about men is men talk abreast, like they're like side by side, they look at each other, they're talking. That's just the way men are. I noticed it this weekend. Love and Tovich and I were talking, and we were like more shoulder to shoulder. And a lot of it has to do with, the difference between men and women, right? It's just how we relate to each other. But when you look at women, how they communicate, women create bonding much quicker than men. And why? Because they mirror and match each other. Like if you go into a restaurant, right? And you want to take a look at the couples, like a romantic restaurant, you look around at the couples that are having a great date. Typically, they're leaning into each other. They're staring into each other's eyes. They're like focused on each other, right? But the dates that are going bad, one person's like has their legs crossed, turning one way. The other person's kind of staring off in the other direction. That date's not going bad. So we all kind of naturally doing the mirror matching thing. When it comes to sales, there are 3 things that you can do that can totally increase your bond rapport, okay? The first one, and probably the most important one, particularly when you're booking appointments, is the voice rate and volume. Like if you can match someone's rate of speech, okay, you're going to go so far with creating rapport with them. And you have to start out slow and low and slow until you can figure out how fast they speak. So what I mean by that, have you ever talked to someone who really talks really slow and you're just trying to catch up? You're trying to slow down, just even listen to them. And especially if you're someone that talks really fast, what happens is you try to speed them up by talking faster, right? That's the hilarious thing about rate. When in fact, what you should do is you need to slow down like them. And in fact, when you think you're slow, you're probably not even close. You have to really think about being slower than them. And so matching the rate. If they talk fast, like they're from the Northeast, then you speed up your conversation fast as well. Because what they're going to do is they're going to know that they're going to vibe with you. It's this vibe that you're putting out there that you're like them because you're speaking at the same rate. The other thing is volume. Sometimes you run into very loud people. Well, you need to raise your voice, or sometimes you run into really kind of quiet, soft-spoken people. Match their volume. You get that done, you're on your way to creating tremendous bond and rapport. Here's the other thing that does is it causes you to listen to the client. That's what's fascinating about all this mirror matching is it causes you to focus on the client, what they're doing, right? And you focused on trying to create this bridge with them, man, it goes far in creating bond and rapport. Here's the other one, mirror matching body language. Now, this one can be a little weird because you think you're mimicking and you don't want to like, if they're crossing their arms, you don't like cross your arms right away, right? Because you're mimicking them and that doesn't work. Bond and rapport won't work when you're mimicking them. But when they kind of sit back like that, then you kind of slowly, just naturally kind of sit back like them. And then if they cross their legs, you mirror them and cross your legs just slowly, right? And let's say the wife is kind of sitting with her hands up on the table. When you want to direct your attention to the wife, right, then you it's called breaking state from the husband. And then, so when you talk to the wife, you're doing exactly what she's doing. What's really interesting is that your clients won't notice because your clients are in their own head. They think less about you and more about what they need, what they want, right? And so they're not even going to notice that you're doing that. But here's what happens is that there's this psychological advantage when you're mirroring and matching them body language wise, is that you're going to start feeling what they're feeling. And that's the power of mirror and matching, particularly when it comes to the NLP mode of mirror and matching, is you're going to start feeling sales tension. You're going to start feeling whether or not the client is skeptical about what you're saying. You're going to feel these things because that's what they're feeling because of how you're mirroring their body language. There's some awesome videos on YouTube when you look up NLP mirror and match. So body language is another important way of doing that. And then the third way is words, okay? So what do I mean by words? The simple notion with words is that you try to use the same words that they use, right? If they use, so there are three types of, sometimes I hesitate going into this, but sometimes people use visual words. Some people use more feeling words, right? Some people use auditory words. So how do you know what kind of words those are? Well, auditory words are when the person says, Alice, that sounds really good to me. When they use those kind of adjectives that have auditory aspects to it, then you know that they're an auditory person. So you use the same words back at them. You say, well, how does this sound to you? I've got option one is $29.95 a month. Option two is $43 a month. And option three is $75 a month. Joe and Mary, which one sounds good to you? Right? So you use the same words that they use when it comes to, kind of their descriptor words. Someone visual, they're going to say something like, wow, Alex, what does it look like if I can get the entire mortgage covered? You got a lot of people say, what does it look like if, or, yeah, I can see what you're saying. It's kind of like, why would they see what I'm saying? Aren't they going to hear what I say? No, visual people say, I see what you mean. I see what you're saying. They use that word see. Then when you talk about their options, you go, can you see how one of these options will work for you? I tell you what, man, it's like you're speaking Chinese Mandarin when they're speaking Chinese Mandarin. But if they're speaking Chinese Cantonese and you're speaking Mandarin, there's nothing you can't communicate. But when you start getting into these finer points of using their words, man, it rocks. Here's another one, the feelers. So they're going to say stuff like, oh man, that just does not feel right. So you use that word. So how does this feel to you? How does this feel? Now if you're a visual, you're going to see, so how does this look to you? But if they're feelers, it's not going to resonate with them unless you use the feeling word. And it's going to be weird for you if you're not that same type of person, right? And this is the thing where you can bond rapport with anybody, right? You can bond a rapport by accident. What I mean by that, if you go to a party and you start talking to people and you find that one person that seems like you've known them forever, well, probably the reason is they're using the same words you're using. They're probably got a lot of the same background, right? There's this thing that goes on that it's because you naturally are like them. See, the problem with thinking that you're going to be a great salesperson is that, let's say that's 25% of the people you sit down with are people that are like you. The problem with that is there's 75% that you're not going to groove with and you're not going to close them. And that's the problem with trying to do it by accident. When you're thinking about and studying them and then giving them back what they're giving you, doing the mirror thing, man, it is huge. It is huge. So I give you some of those things that will really help you technique-wise, right? Now, you already have to care about them, okay? But why do I spend a lot of time on this? The reason why a lot of agents don't close is they don't do the bond rapport well enough. They don't do the pain finding well enough. So if I would suggest anything where you focus your time when it comes to sales, focus your time on getting really good at bond rapport and get real skilled at pain finding, okay? So that's the bond rapport, step one. So you got the good juju going on. You're calling them by their first name. You're finding out the first name of their kids. You're doing all the good stuff with bond rapport, and you feel really good that you've got the good juju going on. Now you can close the compartment, and it allows you to move on. Now you're going to still do bond rapport through the thing, but now you know you can move into what we call the upfront contract. So what is the upfront contract? A lot of agents do this without even knowing it. A lot of agents will set the expectation, right, with the client, maybe even when they sit down, okay? And so here's the thing. They're going to say stuff, and I know a lot of you top salespeople, it's like, okay, Joe and Mary, here's what's going to happen. Okay, you're going to explain and set the expectations. And that's what this upfront contract is designed to do, okay? Set expectations. And the biggest thing that you want out of this is you want the client to feel like they are in control, right? And these are still within the first 4 slides. You're doing who we are, you're doing about you, you're doing all the bond rapport about telling them about you so you can find out about them, right? And it's important for them to know you, because you don't care about people you don't know, but if they know about you, again, it's good to tell stories about life insurance. This is all the Stephen Davies stuff works awesome here, right? But when you get into the upfront contract, you're setting expectations. You want to make sure you know that they know that they're in control, right? And so you don't want to put any pressure on them. So this sounds like this. It's like, so Joe and Mary, I want you to know I'm here to help, okay? If I can't help you, then I can't help you, all right? But if I can, then I'm doing my job, right? So I want you to know that you can end this meeting anytime you want. You're totally in control of it. If I go down a road that you don't think is, going to be right for you and your family, that you can tell me to leave, I'll shake your hand and I'll leave. Okay, so I just want you to know, anytime you think that's the time, just let me know and I'm out of here. Okay, is that okay? It's okay to tell me no, that you're not interested. It's okay to tell me that you want to leave. Are you guys good with that? No pressure. Here's what's crazy about doing this is no salesperson will ever tell them it's okay to tell me no, right? No salesperson will do that. And that's the beauty of the system, is that it makes you sound not like a typical salesperson, right? Like the last 3 FFL guys that try to close them, right? They're trying to close them, man. Like you'll hear this sometimes when you're sitting down on the bond rapport. They'll say so like, golly, man. Oh, especially actually when you're doing it here, it's like, wow, the last guy that was in here, he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't leave until we signed something. Really? Wow, I've heard about agents like that. Man, that's not us. Look, you let us know if we can help you, and if we can't, then we leave as friends. I come in as a friend, I leave as a friend. And we don't put any pressure on them. But you and I know the truth. The truth is when you're asking questions, you're totally in control. And you want to make it sound like they're in control by asking them questions. And they feel like they're in control. And that's what you need to do in the upfront contract. This only takes a minute. Doesn't take long, but as long as you get them to say, now, does that make sense, Joe and Mary? How's that sound, right? They're auditory. How's that sound to you, Joe and Mary? How's that look to you? How's that feel? Does that feel right for you? You know what I'm saying? Like, get them to acknowledge that they're in control, and then you can move on to the next compartment. And this is probably one of the most important parts of pain finding. And this is really when you get to these 3 slides. Why is it important? The why is it important slide. And you know, if you ever watch Brant Swindell do his, he just uses these to kind of keep him on track, but he doesn't like flip chart them in front of the client. He just kind of refers to it himself. He might put it in front of the client, but he just uses it to keep him on track, right? So you could do it however you want to do it, but this will signal for you that you need to get into the pain finding process. So what is pain finding? Pain finding is drilling a client from the logical reason of why you're sitting down to the emotional reason of why you're sitting down. And in the Sandler sale, this is Sandler sales system, by the way, I'm not hiding that fact. I'm a President's Club member of the Sandler sales system. I paid 10 grand to get into it. And so I can get all the coaching I want. I'm actually doing more of the coaching, you know, these days. But anyway, so the pain funnel is designed to drill the client down by asking that what they say is that if you can ask 8 pain finding questions, you're going to get to the heart of the matter, and the heart meaning the emotional reason why they need it. Okay. And there's these questions that if you keep asking them and get into practice asking the right questions, it'll get them talking way more, right? So here's, you know, when you're getting into it, like whether it's a final expense lead or mortgage protection, let's take final expense, because that's, you know, we got a lot of final expense leads, right? So a good way to open up the pain funding process is, all right, Joe and Mary, tell me, when you filled this form out, like if you've got, you know, one of the direct mail final expense forms, and you filled this out, what was on your mind? What were you thinking when you filled this out? And then you just shut up. Silence is the best closing technique, because you will get the client to talk more when you are silent. I just did a video recently about the key elements of creating communication. One of the best ways of communication is to pause before you say anything. If you can pause like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, after they've stopped talking, what's going to happen is they're going to continue to talk. And that's what you want. You want them to fill the silence with further amplify what they're talking about and why they need this. So sometimes they're going to say something like, well, my wife and I were just wondering how expensive this is. How much is this going to cost? Right? They're going to just go at you. And, you know, I say, oh man, you know what? That's why I'm here. We're going to cover that, but I don't even know if I should even be here, because I want to make sure that you have a legitimate need, that you really need this. So tell me more about why you sent this in. You ask it again, and they're going to just be compelled to go, well, you know, I just want to make sure that there's enough money there to cover, you know, the funeral. Oh, okay, fair enough. Do you know how much funerals cost? Well, yeah. Have you ever had a family member pass away and you're in charge of doing the funeral? How much did that cost? And you are totally in control. And here's some more questions. Can be more specific. Give me an example of, you know, tell me about a situation where they didn't have enough money. How long has this been a problem for you? What if you tried to do about taking care of this? Well, we had a couple agents come in, but they were blah, 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 right? Oh, so you had 2 agents come in here and they didn't take care of you. Wow. So why did you let me in your house? That's a good one right there. Well, we just, you know, you need to ask that question. Like, why am I here then? How come if the first 2 guys didn't take care of you, what made you think that I could? Powerful question, man. And how did that work out? You know, did they show you some rates you couldn't afford? So tell me how you feel about that. You die tomorrow. Your wife, Mary, here doesn't have enough money to cover the funeral. So Mary, so Mary's sitting like this. I go, so Mary, tell me what your world looks like, if she's visual. What does it look like for you when Joe dies and you don't have the money to bury him? Then you shut up, man. Let her answer the question. And Joe might answer the question for her. It's like, up, 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 up. Joe, you're dead. I want Mary to figure this out. And you're laughing, you're smiling, right? So Mary, what would you do? Man, you want to get to the point where they are totally like feeling the pain of not having the money to do it. And here's the other thing. It's like, wow, Joe, so Mary's not going to have money. Mary, how are you going to feel having to go out to your children to have them chip in on the funeral? How'd that make you feel? Joe, you heard Mary talk about how it made her feel. How does it make you feel that she'd have to go through that? And you're facilitating this. And I don't care how long it takes. This is where you spend the time, bond rapport and pain finding. And you want to get to the point where it is thick, the air is thick with this tension. And if you're doing bond and rapport right, if you're doing mirror matching right, you're going to feel it in your gut. You're going to feel it in their gut that they don't want to be in this place where they got to, I tell you what, man, mortgage protection are laydowns when you can get the pain finding process on mortgage protection. You start asking questions like, so Joe, how long do you think it's going to take for Mary and the kids to get foreclosed on? Use the F word. In the mortgage protection sale, the F word is foreclose. Use that word early and often. How long do you think, Joe, would it take for the bank to kick Mary, Steve, and Martha out of the house? Never say the kids. Say the kid's name. So Nina, how long do you think it would take for Kyle and Kalani to have to leave the house that they grew up in, that she grew up in? And you shut up. 6 months? Do you think the bank will let you at least live in the house for free for 6 months, 8 months? Have them tell you a number. Okay, 8 months. So what's going to happen after that? I'm sure that they're going to be able to move in with their parents, right? Yeah, probably. So you've got 3 kids, you got a house full of stuff. Do you think you're gonna have to do a yard sale to sell all your stuff? Because you probably aren't going to be able to store all this stuff, right? So you probably have to do a yard sale. Oh my God. And I'm sure your parents have enough room for you and the 3 kids. They probably have some spare bedrooms, don't they? Now, you're going to have to take your kids out of your private Christian school that you have them in. Are they going to have to go to public school? Oh my God. I tell you what, pain finding stops there, because then the husband typically goes, oh, no. My kids aren't going to public school. I tell you what, there's so many opportunities, but you got to practice this. Pain finding rocks. And when the air is thick and you got them almost crying, like I've had couples cry when they have to think about what's going to happen by moving out of their house and moving in with their parents and their kids having to leave their school and all their friends. Man, it's all they can do. Is like, well, let's sign up now, right? But you're cool hand, Luke. You're saying, wow, sounds like this is something that you guys really, really need. Huh. And then here's how you lock that down. This is how you close a compartment. You go, well, that's why I'm here, Joe and Mary. I'm here to make sure that never happens to you, Steve and Martha, your children, that they're going to be able to stay in the house, or they're never going to have to embarrass themselves by having to ask their family for money to bury you. I'm here to help you. And so what you've done is you become their savior, their superhero, when you can take away their pain because of what you're going to do to help them. And that's how you transition into the next compartment. And that's locking down the budget and getting the decision process. And this is the what happens next slide. Okay. So what are you trying to do with the budget? Okay. You're trying to set expectations. The expectation you're trying to set for them is, hey, Joe and Mary, look, our job is to make sure this fits in your budget. And if you can't afford it now, how are you going to afford it in the future? We're going to get you into something that you can afford today, next year, 10 years from now, 30 years from now. Okay. And that's my job, is to make sure it fits in your budget. Joe and Mary, if this doesn't fit in your budget, a week from now, then I didn't do my job. So I'm going to make sure that everything's going to be good on the affordability side, because you know what? You get to pick how much you pay, not me. So I'm going to give you that choice. So we're going to cover in your budget. This is my job, and I'm going to be able to help you with that. And then you can go another step and say, by the way, what ballpark budget were you thinking that you can afford for coverage like this? Now, you've got the right to ask that question when you know the pain process. You got that emotional, because every time they felt the pain and the emotion, their budget started creeping up from $50 a month to $150 a month, because they wanted to take care of the pain. And so sometimes you can ask that question so you know what you have to work with, right? And that's how you know you did the pain finding process well, right? So our job is to fit in your budget. I'm going to give you 3 options. You get to pick which option is going to work for you. If you don't see an option that works, I've got other ones that will work for you. Okay, so are you guys good with that? How's that sound to you? How's that look to you? How's that feel? That feel right? You don't move on until they acknowledge, they nod their head, right? Okay, then you move on to the decision process. And this is where you close it right here, gang. After this point, it's done. You close it here when they agree to the decision process. So what does that look like? Again, it's setting expectations, and it's in the same slide, right? You're going to lay out the process for them. So once you've got the budget done, say, okay, now let me explain to you kind of what happens from here. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm going to ask financial questions so I can get an idea of your, financial situation, so I can really customize a program that will really fit your budget. I'm going to ask you health questions to make sure that the product that I choose for you, you're going to fit health-wise, because you and I know that life insurance premiums are based on your health, right, and your age. And so I really need to understand that for you so I can craft you the best program. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the best product for you. We've got 49 companies. I'm going to find the best one for you. I'm going to give you 3 premium options so that you can choose the best one that will meet your needs and budget. Okay. And then we're going to figure out whether or not you qualify. So tonight is not a think about it night tonight. Tonight, you can't think about it because there's nothing to think about tonight, because we don't even know if you qualify. My job is to see if you qualify. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill out a request for coverage form online, and then it's going to go to the insurance company. And before we know that you can look at the policy or you're approved, the insurance company has to think about you. You have to think about you. So you can't think about it until you have them think about you and decide whether or not you're eligible for the coverage. Okay. Now, should you be fortunate enough that they approve it, then what they're going to do is they're going to put together the policy, they're going to cover you, and they're going to send it to you. And when you receive that policy, I'm going to check in with you so I can come over and we're going to open it up together. I'm going to explain everything in it, everything that you have in it. I'm going to explain your coverage and make sure that you're comfortable with everything that's in it. At that point, Joe and Mary, is when you get to think about it. You're going to be able to think whether or not you can afford more coverage. And what we'll do is we'll just put more coverage on there based on the budget. Maybe you're going to think after, 2 or 3 weeks when they're going through the underwriting that maybe you can't afford that much and that you need to reduce the coverage so that you can afford it. Either way, I'm going to be here to help you do that. So at that point, you and I both get to think about it and see that this is exactly what's going to work for you. Okay. If they don't approve it, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you some other options based on how we know how they what they think about your underwriting situation. And then I've got other carriers, we can explore that, but I'm going to try to get you the best possible policy, but the insurance company is going to have to think about you first. So Joe and Mary, can we agree that tonight's not a think about it night tonight? How's that sound? And then you shut up and you don't move forward until they say, yeah, Alex, that sounds good. Alex, that looks good to me. Alex, that feels right. Let's do it. Right? You don't say a word. Now, this is where you find the objections. This is where you're going to hear them say any kind of objection. And this is where you want it, because the worst objection is the one that you don't know about, right? Because this is the go, no-go decision. This is the, you stay there to help them or you leave, right? Okay. So if they say, well, we're just not prepared to blah, blah, blah. We're just, no. Well, we got to see if it fits in the budget, blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh man, I'm confused. So this is where you use the I'm confused. And this is where you go back to pain finding. Oh, I'm confused, Joe and Mary. I thought that when you said that you would be embarrassed to go raise money from your family to bury Joe, or I'm confused that you didn't want your family to get foreclosed on. I'm confused. I thought you were serious about wanting it. Well, Alex, we're just, we just want to see if it fits in the budget, right? Well, okay, so here's how you handle the budget issue, right? Whoops. Let me do this real quick because I get a lot of good comments on the budget question. So let's talk about budget. So Joe and Mary, let's talk about budget. You're trying to see if it fits in your budget. So let's talk about what a budget really is, right? So your budget equals your, let's say your monthly income, right? And so you've got, let's say you pull in $8,000 a month, right? And then you've got the priorities. Okay, so this is your budget. You've got $8,000 a month to spend. So you've got priority 1 that you got to pay, 2, 3, and also 4, 5. Then you get down to the line where your budget's gone here. This is 0. And then anything below this line is, if you have some extra money, it's nice to have, right? So can we agree that really a budget is a priority from 1 to where you get to 0 in your, in your bank account? Does that make sense to you? And you get them say, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, great. So you get your paycheck in. What's the first thing that you pay off? Well, my mortgage. Okay, so your mortgage. Cool. What's the second thing that you, in your priority in your budget? You got car payments? Oh, yeah, car payments. Okay, we got a car payment. Okay, what's the third thing? Is it NFL access? Is it cable? What is it? Well, we've got, utilities. Okay, utilities. What else? Well, food. Okay. I'm sure cable's in here somewhere, right? Well, yeah, cable. Okay. How about going out to eat, restaurants? Yeah. Okay, does this make sense, Joe? You're going to get down to where anything down here is nice to have. So really isn't your budget deciding this line here, like what goes above the line and what goes below the line? Does that sound reasonable to you? Yeah. Okay. Great. So let me ask you this question. Okay. If your house caught on fire or if it got flooded, what would happen? What covers that? Oh, well, we got home insurance. So if your house burns down, the insurance company will come in and make sure that you'll have a home, right? So you got insurance on that. Huh, interesting. How about your car? You get in an accident, what happens? Oh, well, we have to have car insurance. Yeah. Why do you have insurance? Well, it's to make sure that, things are covered if something happens. Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you a question. we're talking about whether or not this need is below the line or above the line, and you're talking about budget, but you're insuring your mortgage or your house, you're insuring your car payment. But let me ask you, who makes this possible? Is it you, Joe? And you, Mary? Don't you make the budget possible? And that's about as far as you go. You shut up and let them think about that. You make this possible. So you've got insurance here and here, and then you got a little smile on your face, and they start getting it. And you get them to tell you, well, yeah, okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, it's not a decision down here, it's a decision up here. And that's how you can like nail that budget excuse. This works great, especially if they're the right kind of person, the person that deserves to be your client. Okay. Now, look, if they let you up, or they still are insistent on not wanting to do anything, then guess what? You're leaving. You say, well, you know what? I tell you what, John, and you got to have the cojones. Okay. That's Spanish, right? Olga, to walk the heck out of there. They're going to say, well, I tell you what, when you guys are serious about taking care of this, I'll be as serious as you are. Here's my card. Tell you what, I'm going to move on. I've got a lot of other families to take care of that want to take care of their families. Okay. And you're going to pack up and you're going to be walking out the door, and they're going, but you haven't even showed us any rates. I can appreciate what you're asking. If I showed you something for $10 a month, it wouldn't matter, because you're trying to determine all this other stuff. And, when you're serious about wanting to take care of it, then I'll be serious too. So here you go. You get the heck out of there, man. You got to respect your business. You're there to serve families that love their families. They obviously didn't make the cut. And so you're walking out of there and you're not giving them rates, because what you do is that you totally, you don't respect your business when you're just going to throw rates out there willy-nilly, knowing that your client's not going to take care of their family, right? So you walk out of there, okay? So you guys got this decision step here. It's so important. This is your go, no-go decision. Let's move on. So the fulfillment. So why do they call fulfillment in the Sandler system? Because you're fulfilling the promises you made at the beginning. You're fulfilling all the expectations, right? And this is where you do, your financial picture, you find out about them. Now you're going to notice I put the financial picture here instead of in the beginning, because I don't think that you've earned, just my opinion, I don't think you've earned the right to ask them this information until you know that there's an emotional need for you to be there. And when you do it after the pain finding and after the budget and decision, you can ask them every dadgum thing about them, and they're going to give it to you. Whereas at the beginning, when you didn't really create enough, it's going to be hit or miss. Now, I know some of you that are really, really good in sales are able to get it at the beginning. Remember, I'm talking to the person that's brand spanking new, and they don't know what they're doing, right? So this is where we put it after you get all that stuff done, okay? So you get the financial picture, you calculate the rates, you give them the 3 quotes, right? Now, let me say this about the emergency response system. This is something that, and then they pick one, say, John, Mary, which one, there are 3 options here. Which one's the best one for you that will take care of your family and meet your budget, meet your needs? And then you have them circle it. And while they're deciding, you're pulling your computer up, you're opening it up, and you're getting the application started. And you're asking them, okay, so Joe, while you're checking that out, what's your social security number? You're like filling stuff out, man. It's assumptive. After you got through the decision process, they said yes, then you're running, man, like a freight train to get this sucker done. Right? They're just picking the right one. They picked the one, and you go, okay, now that $149 a month one looks good. Okay, that's something you can afford. Like, I'll make sure. Okay, we'll run with that. Okay. And then you write it up. And then what I typically teach now is to do the emergency response system as part of the process of getting the beneficiary. Because, sometimes you make it this big deal. Like, After you get everything done, say, okay, Joe and Mary, do you know that there are $7.5 billion of unpaid life insurance? And you're making this ERS this big deal, okay? For a brand new person, isn't it just really another part of filling out an application? And it comes perfect after the beneficiary. So when you get the benefit, so Joe, Mary said, Joe, so your beneficiary would be, I'm assuming Mary, right? Yeah, Mary. And then contingent would be, okay, your children. Okay, cool, great, awesome. Now, the next step here is we have this program where insurance companies want to make sure that they're going to pay the benefit to you, right? And it's called the emergency contact list. So we've named the beneficiary. Now we need to put together an emergency contact list. What is that? Well, remember when your kids were in school and you had to fill out an emergency contact list, you had to put someone else that was not you so they can call someone. Well, that's what this is, right? Because there are $7.5 billion of unpaid life insurance benefits. And do you know why that is? Oh, I don't know. It's because the insurance company doesn't know the person died. Now, you want your family to get this benefit, right? Yeah, absolutely. Well, it may not make sense if you died next week or next month or next year. But you know what? 30 years from now, there are people that won't even know you have a policy. And wouldn't you like to make sure the policy goes to your to your family? Yeah. Well, this is how we do it. So the insurance companies, to make sure that they pay the benefits out, they want us to fill out this emergency contact list. So all this is 20 names of people that would call me upon your demise. When you die, they're going to call me and tell me that you died so I can put forth the death claim, okay? And out of 20 names, typically 1 or 2 are going to call me, okay? So we're going to hedge our bet. And this is where you do, I'm not going to go into it in depth because I don't got enough time, but then you would do the Brian Rojas version of it, right? Let me add one more thing. I hope it's okay that I go over an hour. I'm going to get
It's
done.
fine. It's awesome stuff.
Alex, take as long as you want. I can personally stay till midnight. This is just invaluable stuff. I mean, my God,
Okay, good.
this is great. Thank you.
So here's my take on doing ERS, okay? And this is something that will blow your mind, right? Until I start doing it with some of my current clients is, you know how you get the client to try to text all their people, right? So all of a sudden your fate of your ERS is in your client's hands and they got to text all these 20 people, okay? So here's what I say to them. I go, so now that we have your list, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to get them to pick up the phone when I call to let them know that they're on your emergency contact list. And I'm going to give them my name and number. I'm not going to tell them anything about your policy. I'm going to give them my name and number, the name and number of the insurance company. But you know how it is. You don't pick up a lot of numbers that you don't recognize, right? Yeah, that's right. Well, you want them to pick up my number, don't you? Well, yeah, I do. Okay. So here's the best way I've known to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to text them on your behalf. In other words, I'm going to do this text. I'm going to read you what the text says. Hey, Joe, this is Alex, or not Alex. Hey, Joe, hey, Steve, this is Joe. I want to introduce you to my insurance man. It's important that you get with him on my behalf. He's going to, if you can do me a favor, please pick up his phone call. His number's coming from 937-554-2693. You know, everything's cool, you know, but I would appreciate if you just do me a favor and pick up his phone call. Now, Joe, is that okay to text out to your people? Like it's coming from you. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to text you and your emergency contact person. And I'm going to write this like it's coming from you because I have your permission, right? Yeah. So when they get it, they're going to see that it's coming from you because you're in their address book, aren't you? Well, yeah. So when they see this group text, they're going to see your name and picture. They're going to, you know, they're going to have their name on it, obviously. And they're going to see a name and number they don't know, or a number they don't know, which is mine. And the text is coming from you. So instead of you going through all 20 names and spending half an hour trying to figure out what to text out, is it okay if I do it for you? You're going to get a copy of the text. They're going to know it's coming from you because your name's going to pop up on the group text. And then when I call them, they're going to answer the phone. Is that cool? Boom, boom. That's how you put the IRS in your hands and you're in control of texting all those people out. Does that make sense, gang? Try it. It's really cool. And text a picture, right? Picture with you and their friend in that. And it rocks, man. And it's all part
Hey,
of the
Alex?
application. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, at the end of that, it's like, please, when you get his call, her call, answer it. And what did you give us, like, the reasoning of it? We want information, we want what?
Oh, so yeah. So I mean, to go down further down that, what we do, tell them we want them to answer the call, don't we? So that we can let them know that they're on your emergency contact list. They know to call me, and it's important that they pick up the phone. So when I call, I can let them know that.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that's how I close the loop. And then here's how you get their permission. Now, Joe, look, they're going to know I'm your insurance agent. If they ask me to quote them rates on insurance or annuities, or all the other things that we do, Medicare, okay, and this is where you drop names on things that you can do for them. Is it okay if I answer their questions about any of that stuff? And they're going to say, well, yeah, sure, absolutely. So this is where you don't get blowback, right? Sometimes the client gets blowback where their friend calls and go, hey, your insurance agent tried to sell me life insurance, right? You get their permission that it's okay, and then you're probably going to be okay when you talk to their people, okay? Makes sense? All right, cool. So now you're going into, so the fulfillment, you get the quote, you get all this done, ERS, prescription card, blah, 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 safe money, annuities. Okay, I'm not going to go into that. But that's the purpose of fulfillment, is close the sale, baby. Then now it's moving on. Number 7, okay, 3-option close, ERS referrals. So last part, the post-sale. And this is how you make sure that your persistency and placement is locked down. Okay, it's the final questions. Okay. And so this slide was developed from old school, man. We used to do something we call push the check back. Okay. So when we were filling out live application or paper applications, when we picked up a check, what we would do is we'd turn the check back to the client, push it back over to the client, and ask the client, Joe, this $149 a month represents your commitment to make sure your family is protected in the case you pass away, you die, and that the insurance company will pay the benefits so they don't ever have to worry about where they're getting the money to put you in the ground. Okay. Now, this $149 a month is your commitment for the next 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, whatever. Now, Christmas is coming. Are you going to look at that $149 coming out of your checking account or savings account? Are you going to look at Mary and say, you know what, we can't afford this, we're going to give Alex a call to cancel it? Are you going to cancel it? And you just shut up. Summertime's coming, vacation expenses are coming. Are you going to call me and tell me you want to cancel it? And then you just let them answer the question. Because if they hesitate, okay, then you know that maybe that's a clue that they're paying too much for it. You were too good to sell them. So this is where you go back, I'm getting the feeling, okay, so this is how you do non-confrontational, I get the feeling, so no one can criticize how you feel. I get the feeling like, that 149 is going to be a little bit stretching your budget. Am I right about that? And you shut up and get them to answer the question. And this is where you get them to sell you that they're going to keep the policy, or sell you that they can't, and that you got to go to the next level down, right? Any hesitation, I'm going to say, you know what, I'm getting the feeling like it's stretching your budget. Is that correct? Yeah, it's a little bit. Okay, say no more. When we go to that option 1, that's $79.95 a month, that'll give you, $7,500 of coverage that will more than cover any cremation and any funeral expenses. Why don't we do that $79.95 a month one? Are you good with that? Because if you're good with that, I'm good with that. Yeah, that's better. Because you did a job when you can feel, again, because the bond rapport is so strong, you feel their relief. You're going to feel their relief like, oh, That was good. Okay. You took care of them. Or they're gonna sell you that they can afford it. They're gonna say, no, Alex, they're gonna push the check back at you, the proverbial check, right? No, we can afford it. 149. We're gonna do that. We're gonna definitely do that. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. Okay. If you ever feel like this is too much, you let me know, right? Because I'm not here to have you pay the most you can pay. I'm here to help you pay what you can pay and will pay for the next 60 years. Okay. Does that make sense, Joe and Mary? Yeah. How's that sound? How's that look? You know what I'm saying? Right. So you locked it down, you push the check back. Then you're going to say, you're going to find buyer's remorse. This is how you get rid of buyer's remorse, or how you find it, right? Because you don't know buyer's remorse is going to happen until after the fact, right? Because that's the definition of buyer's remorse. It happens after the fact, after you've gone, and you think you got the sale locked down, man. You don't got it locked down yet, man. Seriously. So you're going to do the callback, say, hey, Joe and Mary, look, here's my card. Okay. I'm going to call you back in 2 days, and I'm going to see if you have any questions. Okay. I'm going to call you back, and I want you to write down your questions so that we can address all your questions so that you feel comfortable with this policy, right? Awesome. And then you call them back 2 days later, say, hey, Joe, Mary, Alex. Hey, Joe, how you doing? So I'm calling because I said I would, and trust, because you're doing what you said you're going to do. You have any questions for me? And they might have a few. Great, that's why you called, but that's not really why you called. Why you called 2 days later is the people that will cancel their policies, they're going to say something like, Alex, Mary and I were talking, and I think it's a little bit, it's a little tight right now. We've got some debts to pay off, and, it sounded good at the time, but hey, Joe, say no more. You know what? When I left the house, I kind of felt like maybe it was a little bit of a stretch. So I get done with my last appointment at 7 p.m. Why don't I drop by your house? Let's talk about it. Okay, let's kind of revisit and see, if there's an option that we can get you that will work for you and Mary. Okay. Now, see, this is why you do it 2 days later, because 2 days later, you have a chance to go in. The cement has not hardened yet. Okay. You call them 2 weeks later because you know that they got their policy. That decision has left the station. You know what I'm saying? They made that decision, and no matter what you do or say, 2 weeks later, when you call them up about coming over to open up the policy, say, no, we already canceled it. Oh, but no, Alex, hey, you're great. Listen, if it is something we can do, we're going to give you a call. You don't have a chance to get back in there, but 2 days later you do. So you want to get in there before the cement dries, right? You want to find that buyer's remorse, okay? And what it does, it increases their trust in you because you did what you said you're going to do, right? This rocks. The next thing is you pre-deliver the policy. Now, this will totally lock the sale down. So what do I mean by pre-deliver the policy? I said this actually on the TWC. This is why you buy a policy, gang, on yourself. Why? You buy it because you can do this part, and this will make you a ton of money, I promise you. And it's going to allow you to keep your commissions, okay? Because all this time, these 7 steps is this esoteric concept of them taking care of their families. But what does it really mean? There's nothing that they can grab onto. You're not selling a car. You're not selling Cutco knives. You're not selling a vacuum cleaner. You're selling this concept of protection, okay? So you buy your own policy when you get in so that you can carry it in your bag. I don't care if you buy mortgage protection, final expense. It's good if you do both, maybe an IUL, okay? But whatever you can afford. And before you leave, you go, hey, by the way, would you guys like to see what your policy is going to look like? What do you mean? Yeah, let me show you what your policy is going to look like. And you do the magic move. The magic move is you go to your bag, you pull out your policy, right? I had trouble. See, I've lost mine because I've taught with it so much. I have a home certain F&G Life home certain policy I got was written on the 8th of December, 1999. It's still in force, 30-year policy with every single bell and whistle in it. And that policy has made me so much money because I've taught this. So I pull the policy out and say, check this out. And I do the wacka, wacka, wacka. All of a sudden, this conceptual sale becomes a real thing because I show them a contract they're going to get from the insurance company. And it's my policy. It's not a specimen policy. Man, you show them a specimen policy that says specimen on it, they're going to want to get up and go pee, right? Okay, so you get your policy out and you show, okay, so let me show you what your policy is going to look like. Okay, all policies in the state of Florida look very similar. Okay, so let me show you mine. So you see this first page, this is the summary page of your policy. This goes over all the benefits. So you see my benefit, I've got 150,000 mortgage protection. I've got the 1,500 disability. I've got the accidental death, and I've taken care of my family with this. And then let me show you the suicide exclusion. So if you decide to commit suicide, wait for 2 years, and I'm laughing, okay, because the insurance company will pay. So you want to wait 2 years, and that's where this is. And then here are some of the other benefits. Here's the list of the premiums you're going to pay out through the next, it says here, my 30 years, okay? And then here's a copy of my application. I show them all this. And it's like, and I give it to them, it's like, check this out. This is, you're gonna get to hold on to this. This is gonna be yours. They're gonna feel the weight. They're gonna, and all those kinesthetic feelers, you got the people that say, oh, I don't know about this. I don't know if this feels right. It's gonna feel right because they get to touch the thing that they purchased, okay? Even though it's yours, so you've given them credibility, right? That you believe in your product. You've given them the touchy-feely thing. You show them, the visual people will love to see all the stuff that's in it, right? Because it's a contract. And you've locked it down, baby. Locked that sucker down. So pre-deliver the policy. There's more in this, but those are just some of the basics. Then you actually deliver the policy. So I'm a big advocate of getting back with your clients, man. I'm fanatical about placement and persistency, right? Our top people have a 90% placement and persistency, right? It's possible. The NA average is 75%. Can you imagine making 15% more money because you implement some of these simple ideas? I don't know about you, but 15% of 100,000, what is that? 15 grand? You make a $15,000 difference in your world. If it's 50,000, that's 7,500. I mean, that's real money in your pocket, gang. You know what I'm saying? So you go over, open the policy with your client, explain everything that you explain. When you pre-deliver the policy, you go back and do the same thing. Then you've got other opportunities to cover with other things. Tell them about how great it was meeting their friends. Boy, that locks it down. It's like, hey, by the way, your friend Martha, she's really crazy. Oh, I know Martha's crazy. You took care of Martha. Oh yeah, Martha, she's funny. Oh yeah, she's one of my best friends in the world. You took care of her. Oh man, you know what? I've got some other friends in our bridge club that I think that'd be great for them to talk to you. See, you just totally closed the loop, gang, on that. So how much time do I got? So I think I am okay. I'm not done. It's the last slide. One of the most important books I think you could ever get when you want to learn the 7-step process is called Asking Questions the Sandler Way. You can find this book anywhere. It's about $16, and by Antonio Garrido. Right? Did I do that right, Olga? Garrido. This will talk about the submarine, but more importantly, it'll teach you the questions to ask. It'll go into negative reversing. Oh man, I wish I could teach you that. Negative reversing rocks. Your closing rate will go up when you learn the negative reversing technique of asking questions. It will totally amp up everything that you're doing. This book is thin. Okay, it's about 150 pages. You can get through it, but it'll give you so much good stuff to learn. All right, so that is it. I am done. Let me see if I can click out of here. All right. That's it, man. That's all I got for you. I try to make it simple, but I've got some really good, like you go on YouTube, look up bond and rapport, NLP bond and rapport, look up Sandler pain finding. Sandler, pain finding. I would really emphasize you get those two down, man, you're going to have great closing rates. And then you start getting better and better by working the system. You're going to rock the world. But remember, it's for brand new people to just get started. You're going to start grooving into all these cool things, all the Stephen Davies stuff. But I'm just trying to get you started learning how to use the ATM properly in a very systematic framework. Make sense, gang?
Makes sense. Alex, you are welcome to come back anytime if you would like to. If you're just dying to show us the basic question and the Sandlers and what you were just talking about at the end, we would love to have you back.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do it again. Let me know, we'll give it a break and then let me know to come in, because I've got some really cool modules on how to ask questions, powerful questioning techniques. Like I said, you learn some of these questioning techniques that you're going to learn in this book, and I'll go over how that applies specifically to what we do in life insurance. It's a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing for recruiting too. Okay. So I'd be happy to do it.
That's amazing. Alex, do you mind if we post like your email on there just in case people want to reach out, or your phone number? I don't know what you're comfortable with. I think it was Alex at ABN Financial, right?
Yeah, Alex at abnfinancial.com. I think that's correct. And then my cell is 937-554-2693. All right, cool. So
I mean, that was amazing.
I take calls from people from all outside my hierarchy all the time. I don't mind. I love serving. I love helping. And you know what? I believe in you reap what you sow. And if I can help you make money and it's helping Olga's team, Olga and Jason's team, it's helping Marnie's team, the harvest always comes back to me, right? I never look at it as overrides. I look at my spiritual overrides over my earthly overrides, because the spiritual overrides is something that means something, right? It's my mansion in heaven. My treasures are there, not down here, right?
That's good right there, brother.
Rock on,
You're
man.
a god, man. We love you.
God, you rock, dude.
That was amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We will definitely have you back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
man.
Alex.
Yes, Olga. Rock
Thank you
on.
so much.
Thank you,
God
brother.
bless everybody.
Have a great night.
See ya.
Thank you, Alex.